I break people, I break legs, I break spirits. That's my job.
I come in here 100%, and I don't know, I'm pretty much a lion tamer.
I'll throw strikes, I'll kick, I'll knee, I'll wrestle, I'll do whatever.
Just get rid of the old and come with the new.
This is my game, this is my world. You step into my world, you're gonna step out a loser, I guarantee it.
I'll try to bring everything I got. I'll work on my submission, on my striking. I'll come in here a lot stronger and bigger. Tito Ortiz, this time I'll kick some ass.
I'll show up, I'll do my job, and I'll take care of Tito.
Frank Shamrock versus Tito Ortiz for the UFC Middleweight Championship of the World. UFC 22.
This is beautiful Lake Charles, Louisiana, gateway to the Gulf, the 12th largest port city in the nation, generally known for its peace and tranquility. But tonight, inside the Lake Charles Civic Center, the gates of the Octagon will be open for UFC 22, and yes, there can only be one champion. Hi again, everybody. I'm Mike Goldberg, and welcome to UFC 22. It's simple. It's a spotlight night, and the light is shining bright on the middleweights, the best 200-pound and under fighters in the world. Let's take you back to December of 1997, when a young man named Frank Shamrock came out of the shadows of older brother Ken Shamrock, a UFC superstar. He has since that point been one of the greatest fighters in UFC history. But he got married, and he took most of 99 off, and 99 has belonged to Tito Ortiz. Tonight, the two best middleweights perhaps in the world clash right here in Lake Charles, Louisiana. My partner, as always, the Olympic gold medalist, Jeff Blatnick. Jeff, we've got the heavyweights for you tonight, and I know you're itching to see those guys, but this is truly a night where Frank meets Tito.
Personally, I think Frank Shamrock might be the best athlete ever to grace the octagon. Tito Ortiz this past year is certainly up for the chance to knock Frank off. He too has displayed tremendous talent. This is going to be a war. I really think people have been tuned into this for a long time. It's finally going to happen. I'm excited. I'm more excited than most of the heavyweight bouts we've had. This is going to be a great fight.
Some in the fighting world would say that last weekend the greatest fight took place. I disagree. I think tonight the greatest fight is going to take place.
Well, I don't think you're going to see the outcome of Trinidad De La Hoya. I think what you're going to see are two middleweights really going at it. They don't like each other at all. Ortiz was able to beat stablemates Bolander and Guy Metzger. Really ticked off Ken Shamrock. There seems to be a lot of bad blood here. But Frank has removed himself a lot from the Lion's Den with his alliance with Maurice Smith and Tsuyoshi Kosaka. And I really feel Frank Shamrock, coming out of the shadows, didn't want to babysit the Lion's Den, stepped up and became one of the greatest middleweights we've ever had, maybe one of the best fighters, got married. There's really been an evolution, a metamorphosis, and I'm really itching to see what is going to bloom from this metamorphosis we call Frank Shamrock.
Talked to Tito Ortiz. He said he'll come into the fight at about 217 pounds. Talked to Frank Shamrock last night. Asked him about marriage. Softening him, he said, marriage has made me meaner. And as a married man, we know exactly what it means. Some rule changes tonight. No disrespect to Angelina Brown. Some rule changes tonight in effect once again, partner with our three judges scoring the bout.
That's correct. There's going to be three judges scoring each bout. Bout durations for the preliminaries, it's 2 5-minute rounds. For the non-title, 3 5-minute rounds. And of course, for title fights, 5-minute rounds.
The round winner gets 10 points and the opponent gets 9 or less based on effective striking, grappling, and aggressiveness, and octagon control, Jeff.
Octagon control is what most people think of ring generalship. Dominating rounds will be scored 10-8 or potentially even 10-7 based on knockdowns, throws, heavy effective striking, or near submissions.
And if we have to, we will render a judge's decision. Skip Hall from Birmingham, Alabama, veteran. Jeff Mullen from Atlanta, and Rod Prejean from Lake Charles, Louisiana, hometown official here tonight. One of our three judges for UFC 22. Let's get it going right now. I'll tell you what, it is a night that we have all been anticipating for quite some time, and I fully expect it will live up to expectations. And what a great fight we have to start the evening. Tim Lasik, Ron Waterman. Two heavyweights who like to throw punches. And we have put this fight first on the card tonight because we expect it to get the night off on the right tone.
Massive heavyweight Ron Waterman made his UFC debut at last May's UFC 20, taking out overmatched Chris Kondo in only 28 seconds. He returned at UFC 21 to take on 350-pound Andre the Chief Roberts. The two came in ready to swing, and Waterman scored with several punches and high knees. Somehow, the Chief got back on track and managed to sneak in a left hook that sent a dazed Waterman to the canvas. Tonight, Ron Waterman returns to the octagon to prove the knockout was a fluke, and he belongs at this level of mixed martial arts competition. Two-time All-America wrestler Tim Lasik made his UFC debut at last July's UFC 21. Taking on top-ranked Tsuyuki Kosaka, Lasik was able to take down TK, controlling the entire first round. In the second round, the two exchanged leg submission attempts before Lasik gained position to fire strikes. But a last-minute surge by TK at the end of round 2 would be more than the UFC rookie could handle, and he was unable to answer the call for round 3 due to exhaustion. 8-1 in mixed martial arts competition, he returns tonight in search of his first UFC victory.
Now, the rules include no biting, no eye gouging, no fist hooking, no headbutting, and no hair pulling. And the ways to win, one of them is by knockout. And that is a way that Tim Lasik would prefer for things to go tonight. Tim Lasik, the Bohemian, with a wrestling and boxing background, 34 years old, 6'1", 228. A powerful puncher. Tim told me this afternoon he was up all night. Couldn't sleep very well, but it wasn't from fear. He is a UFC veteran now. He's been inside these cage walls before. What it was about was thinking about what tactically Ron Waterman might try to do. We know one thing. He's a spectacular wrestler.
Lasik looked great against Kosaka, able to take down a very outstanding fighter, able to keep him on the ground despite Kosaka's guard, but he ran out of gas. Great wrestler, very strong puncher, and I think that's going to be the key to the fight. If Lasik can dominate the standing position, Waterman might be in trouble.
Now, Lasik, a two-time All-American in the sport of wrestling, and Waterman also finds his foundation in the sport of wrestling. In fact, he's been a wrestling coach at the high school level for 8 years from Greeley, Colorado. Likes to ground and pound, and striking has been a bit of an adjustment, but he did throw some punches in his last fight against Andre Roberts, the one eventually that he was knocked out in, though. That was the last time he entered the octagon. He is 1-1 in the UFC and an extremely sculpted fighter. Powerful 33-year-old H2O man, Ron Waterman.
That's correct. He just stayed in front of a wounded animal a little too long in Andre Roberts. He really had control of that fight, but he left his game plan. He became a slugger. It's not what he does best, and he paid the price for it. We have two fighters here that have lost, Mike, and that's going to be the key. They are highly motivated.
Absolutely. One needs to move on in the UFC books tonight. One may be eliminated. Lasik is 34, Waterman 33. A definitive size advantage for Ron Waterman. Tim Lasik says he doesn't think he'll be thrown around, even though he gives up 30 pounds. To officially get this evening underway, it is my pleasure to turn it over to the veteran voice of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, his 13th UFC. Here's Mr. Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live from the Lake Charles Civic Center in Lake Charles, Louisiana. Tonight, SEG Sports presents an international sports event. Tonight, 12 of the finest mixed martial artists in the world will all compete and defend their honor in the world's ultimate testing round, the Octagon. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the fighters are ready. The fans of Louisiana and those of you watching around the world are ready. Because now, it's time to begin the Ultimate Fighting Championship! Tonight's event is sanctioned by the Louisiana Boxing and Wrestling Commission with Alvin Topman, Secretary. Our first event of the evening is a heavyweight bout consisting of 3 5-minute rounds, beginning with the fighter standing to my left. He is a 2-time All-American wrestler with a mixed martial arts record of 8-1. Standing 6 feet, 1 inch tall, weighing in at 228 pounds, He's fighting out of Redwood City, California. Please welcome Tim Lasik. And his opponent, standing to my right, he is a wrestler with a mixed martial arts record of 5-0. He is a veteran of UFC 20 and UFC 21. Standing 6 feet, 2 inches tall, weighing in at 259 pounds, he's fighting out of Broomfield, Colorado. Welcome back, Ron Waterman! And our referee for the entire evening is Big John McCarthy!
A constant since UFC 2. This is his 25th UFC, and I would say not quite as big. John McCarthy, who's been hitting the weights himself, and as always, make sure the safety of our fighters is his first priority. Let's get it started.
Go. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get it on!
My favorite words, let's get it on. They touch out of respect, Waterman and Lasik.
This is where the speed of Lasik, he needs to take advantage of it. He's good on the ground, though. Lasik showed that he can wrestle quite well. He's got a great background in wrestling, but usually in wrestling, the bigger bodies win.
Lasik thinks Waterman wants to close the gap and get chest to chest. He said if he tries to do that, he's going to eat some leather. And there Waterman goes for the takedown, and he gets it.
Gets to almost, nice guy, stuck in a half guard. Nearly was able to get to the side mount.
I would guess that Ron Waterman's going to be much more disciplined about his game plan here. As you mentioned, he made the mistake in the last matchup.
That's right. He tried to become a boxer when he's really had very limited experience boxing.
Good guy.
And even though he had great success, and that's when most people make that mistake, is when all of a sudden they find some success in a discipline they're not used to, suddenly they think they know it. And certainly an injured animal is the worst thing you want to do with inexperience, and get in front of one of them. Waterman able to get a couple short left hands in, and he is on a side mount now.
Good work, you guys are doing
Lasik
great.
has a strong, yeah, no question. Lasik has a strong wrestling background, but this is where, and I mentioned Tim Lasik said he didn't think he could get overpowered, but this is where we're really going to truly find out. 30 pounds is 30 pounds.
That is correct, and he's not going to be able to push Ron Waterman's hip away with one arm.
Lasik is a two-time All-American wrestler, Jeff, and you faced it yourself as a heavyweight wrestler. It's not as if you did not fight against guys that are bigger than you. You've got to keep the hips moving. You've got to try to stay mobile. Is that correct?
That is correct, and when you're down this way, this is really just what we call a pinning combination in wrestling. Lasik's going to get out of it. Oh, my Lord, he was able to turn, but now he's given his back. Waterman can do many things here, and he's deciding to wrestle him. This is, again, inexperienced by Ron Waterman. You would like to look for a choke. You can punch right here. You can knee right here effectively. And now once he's up to his base, now Lasik becomes more of a threat. But again, the choke here is what Waterman should be applying, but he doesn't have the hold.
Well, Lasik showed great strength in his upper body to keep that from being able to be launched with a choke attempt.
I'm impressed. Lasik was working that entire time, bridging, able to get out. Waterman here just looking to neutralize him, not really being offensive. He looks a little bit lost in what his game plan calls for here.
Now, Waterman said he thinks the advantage in the strength department is certainly his, but he's going to try to avoid bad situations, and he did, as you said, appear to be a bit hesitant there when Lasik gave him his back. Now he's trying to work the knees, but he's staying in close quarters. It's not officially chest to chest here, Jeff, but he's staying close quartered, which is what he wants to try to do.
That's correct. It gives no room for Lasik to use his hand speed.
The duration of this first heavyweight matchup will be 3 5-minute rounds. As we said at the top of the show, we had moved to a round system. We did it in our last UFC when we saw you in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, back on July 16th, returning the champions. It has been a favorable move, and the judges, if needed, will render a decision.
Now he's in the chest-to-chest position that Lasik thought he would get to. Question is, what can Waterman do here? He hasn't really attempted to put Lasik back down. He's just trying to pin him and neutralize him. He could try some nifty little sweeps with his feet to take Lasik off his feet. He hasn't done that. He also could just drop down and take out one of Lasic's legs and rip it towards the center of the octagon and try to remove him from the fence and get him down at the same time.
Now, both fighters right now appear to be almost catching their breath, even though they're interlocked with 1 minute remaining in the first round. Lasic very patient, almost in a relaxed state.
He's got nothing to fear from a strike here. With his head buried, with his arms down, Waterman cannot strike him there. Best he can do is perhaps knee him in the leg. And I don't think Ron Waterman practices that either.
Does Waterman lose leverage here to try to take him down up against the fence?
Well, I think Waterman is spending a lot of energy doing nothing. He's just holding him against the fence, and he's slowly burning energy here. And the one thing that always saps energy quicker is frustration. If he's lost and doesn't know what to do effectively, that could cost him more energy because he wastes a lot of mental time trying to think of what to do, and physically he's just straining to hold Lasic against the fence.
Now, this is the first time we have seen Waterman go any duration. Knocked out by Andre the Chief Roberts somewhat quickly, and of course he took care of Chris Kondo in 28 seconds in his first fight. So Lasic saying that, you know, Waterman almost got a low shot in late, but that was certainly unintentional. And the first round comes to a close. We go to Ron Waterman's corner where his trainer Leo Sawyer is there. What strategy does Ron Waterman try? That one didn't work.
Well, it just seemed that he had his chance when he got him down. He wasn't able to capitalize, and I'm not sure if he got frustrated, but this is what Ron Waterman can do. A very high double leg. Didn't really seize the legs. He took out the hips, but he was able to get on top. He got the side mount, but eventually Lasic, to his credit, able to bridge, gave Waterman his back, and Waterman missed a golden opportunity here to attack his opponent. Many people feel in the world of jiu-jitsu, giving your back is the worst possible position to be in.
Now, we saw the late punch was a bit low, and John McCarthy has given Ron Waterman just a warning because it was unintentional. So a warning has been given for a low blow to Ron Waterman, as we are getting confirmation from Big John right now.
That's correct. That's big. There was a foul.
It was a foul, not a warning.
That's correct. It was a foul.
All right, turn it around.
There are no warnings for strikes to the groins.
Ron, are you ready? Let's get it on.
Here we go, round two. See if Lasic can do something on his feet here quickly. Waterman keeping that left hand high. He knows Lasic is a powerful puncher.
What a wrestler should do is get the striker to move forward and throw a punch that's going to miss, and while it's missing, go under him.
Which is what he did in the first round.
That's correct.
Lasic is certainly aware of that strategy. Waterman has a cut on the bridge of his nose.
It's Lasic who's standing his ground in the center, waiting for the distance to close.
Lasic trying to deliver something from the top. Waterman with a single leg. Now Lasic trying to stay busy, spinning and spinning.
Now this is, Waterman better go down. There it is, he went to guard. Lasic with the takedown, but he's stuck in Waterman's guard. Now we'll find out exactly how much Waterman has learned in guard skill. We have never seen him here before. We have seen Lasic here with Kosaka, and he was effective with keeping Kosaka down, was able to score here and there with some strikes and some knees.
Oh yeah, and he was very impressive in his debut and really stayed busy, and then just it was almost exhaustion more than anything else that forced Eugene Jackson, his partner, his best friend, and the man in his corner, Tim Lasic's corner, to throw in the towel, because he was doing a great job against TK. He lets Waterman up, and Waterman has a big
over his right eye.
Yeah, over his right eye, or both eyes, really. A cut on his right eye and a mouse on his left eye. So Lasic's hands have certainly connected with the face of Ron Waterman. He's got a mouse on that left eye too, partner.
Yes, he does.
Waterman looking to shoot again, and he does. Oh, just missed it, Lasic. This one he gets with the left.
Left got him, and you could see Waterman turn in anger. That's partially frustration.
2:45 remains in round two. This round has belonged to Tim Lasic. First one may have gone his way with the foul called late in the first round against Ron Waterman.
Well, I would think at worst he came out of that with a draw, if not a win. No doubt. No doubt with the foul.
Lasik looks very confident. Double leg. Lasik avoids it and almost able to connect again. Now, if Waterman can't shoot and bring Lasik down, then Ron Waterman's in trouble.
Exactly.
And he is in trouble here.
Now Lasik's starting to find the range. He's starting to get the hands in through Waterman's defense. And part of it is because Waterman is attacking him a little too strong. I would not fake doing those kinds of shots until he throws a punch.
Waterman's running too. His shoulders are starting to go up and down with every breath.
Conditioning, cardio, so much a factor. Lasik showing great heart through nearly 2 rounds, but he seemed to run out of gas at the end of the second round. He seems fresh here. He seems to be controlling the fight now, where he wants to be and exactly the positions that if he's going to bind, he'll accept with Ron Waterman. Oh, nice left hand by Waterman. Another one.
Now there's the first 2 punches delivered by Ron Waterman. And Lasik says, okay, so we're going to do this, huh? I like the way this is going, Jeff.
He needs, if he's going to be throwing jabs, he needs to throw jabs that have some meaning to him. Lasik has a history of being a boxer, golden gloves and such. He needs to be careful about pawing at his opponent. But Lasik also showed some fatigue, and perhaps he's starting to fatigue as well.
Lasik with a 9-1 amateur boxing record, actually won a Golden Gloves title in the state of California. He wants to use his speed and get that jab and create angles, as he said, that kind of stuff. And both guys are showing some versatility here.
Yes, they are. Waterman now using his guard to try and stop Lasik from scoring here.
Doing good, gentlemen.
Lasik seems to have slowed down as well. Perhaps both of these athletes now going into oxygen deficit.
Now, you talked about the importance of this matchup for both fighters with 27 seconds left in the second round. Waterman was quoted as saying, "I won one fight that was fairly questionable to everyone as far as my opponent. The next fight I come back and I lose. You can't come back and lose 2 fights." So this is, he feels, his last opportunity to prove himself worthy of continued performances inside what is the Super Bowl of mixed martial arts.
And if Lasik didn't sleep last night, you can bet part of that motivation was the very same thought. That is, I can't lose 2 in a row.
Second round has come to a close, clearly dominated by Tim Lasik.
It's nothing, Ron. Tiny little scratch. Tiny little scratch. Piece of cake. Tiny little scratch. Tiny little scratch.
It's the 3rd and final round. You want to go, Vinny?
So 10 minutes of the 15 minutes, and Waterman really looked gassed for a second there, but finished the round pretty strong.
Yes, he did, especially when he got those 2 nice jabs in. But you spend a lot of energy here when you go under an opponent. Your arms are extended out in front of you. You don't really have the leverage to pull the leg in. Didn't get a real good penetration step to bring his back into play here. And Lasik just locks out in what we call a sprawl position and eventually spun behind. Then in the middle, this is right after Waterman hit him with 2 jabs. Lasik put his hands on his hips, and he was either challenging Waterman to come into him, or he was wondering where did those 2 blows come from. But the pace definitely slowed down at the tail end of the second period. Both these athletes, I believe, are sucking some serious wind here. It's tough in the octagon. These athletes give it their all.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get it on.
Here we go, round 3.
Finish it up, guys.
Thing is, if Waterman can wrestle again for these 4.5 minutes, can he do anything effective? He was not able to do anything effective wrestling, if you will, in the first round. And striking so far has been won by Tim Lasik.
Yes, it has. And even though Waterman caught a couple of good strikes there with jabs to Lasik's face, it just seems as though Waterman has not been able to get near Lasik's hips
Come on,
again.
you gotta get after it,
And that's
guys.
something that does happen with a heavyweight and a lightweight. Heavyweights shoot on lightweights all the time in practice, and it's real hard to get in deep because they are quicker. They can throw their hips back, sprawl much quicker than a heavyweight can.
Yeah, there Waterman going for an ankle. And he's leaving himself susceptible, but he gets his man down.
Big takedown for Ron Waterman. This is a very close fight. Now we'll get to see what Waterman will do from within Lasik's guard. And certainly now, cardio is going to come into play. Whoever's got the gas now is certainly going to be in a position to do more scoring and perhaps win this fight.
And there is always the definitive advantage, even when you are forced to articulate yourself in the guard when you're in your own corner. And Lasik is in his own corner right in front of his best friend, partner, and UFC 21 victor, Eugene Jackson.
Nice job by Lasik trying to stretch Waterman out, interlocking his legs with Waterman's, keeping Waterman from really getting high on him where he can bring blows down to his head. This is where the experience of Lasik with his guard play really comes in and helps him. Waterman, despite what we would think would be a position he wants, ground and pound, he has that opportunity now. He's yet to throw one strike. He's got time. About 3 minutes left right now.
Close fight so far. We have to remember the foul was assessed to Ron Waterman. And they may have hurt him in the first round because there wasn't anything delivered that would have given the first round to Lasik. But there wasn't much of an advantage for Waterman nonetheless. And then losing the point obviously hurt him. Second round belonged to Lasik, and now with 2:38 left, you're right. Waterman needs to get busy for points, if not for the opportunity to try to end it with a submission or a TKO.
I'm not sure we're going to see a submission from Ron Waterman. He had a golden opportunity when Lasik gave him his back and he didn't use it. What would help Waterman here is if he could just rotate his backside a little bit more towards the center, and that would force Lasik directly into the fence. Then he can't run, then he has an opportunity to go ahead and hit him. There he went ahead and hit with a left hand. Now a forearm.
2 minutes, 5 seconds remains in the third and final round of this, our first fight of the night in the heavyweight division between Ron Waterman of Greeley, Colorado, and Tim Lasik of Redwood City, California.
Super guard position by Lasik. He's really forcing Waterman to get very high on him and forward, and it's hard to throw a punch without telegraphing it, which means he's got the opportunity to defend it. Waterman could pass a guard, get to half guard or side mount, which he did early in the fight, but didn't throw any blows there. If he could get there now, I think he could be a lot more effective, but he has to get busy. He's got to get busy.
Relax and breathe right now. Relax and breathe. And you're all right. That don't mean nothing.
Waterman now trying to get a piece of Lasik. He just got to get an arm free so he can put a little force behind the jab. Still trying to work it with 1 minute and 5 seconds remaining here in round number 3.
That's it. Keep doing it. Go inside the arm.
Waterman doing a nice job. This is exactly what he wants to do. If he can't pass the guard, jam him into the fence so that he doesn't have anywhere to go. He's predictable, then he's a stationary target, and if you can get your arm free, you got a shot at landing a strike.
If you're Ron Waterman, do you try to do anything, for lack of a better term, quickly, anything big here, or do you just ride it out for 35 seconds?
I really feel that in terms of the skill level of Ron Waterman, this is his best position at this moment.
27 seconds. Lasik isn't going anywhere.
No, he's not. He's going to be stuck there. Waterman trying to get some blows in. But a nice job by Lasik here, defending, keeping anything really big from landing. But the action now seems to be dominated by Waterman. He seems to be carrying the fight now, and he's getting a lot busier.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. Final seconds of the round come to a close now.
And that's it. And boy, they gave it their all. This is two tired big men.
And I'll tell you what, Waterman looked to be really gassed in the second round and recovered and wrestled very diligently in the third round and took some punishment, as Andre Roberts did the last time the two met. You can see it over the left eye of Ron Waterman. Now remember, criteria for a judge's decision still, Jeff, includes aggressiveness, striking, and grappling.
That's correct. The octagon control as well. And so what you really want to look at this is the two main scoring realms, and that's striking and grappling. And then you want to look at octagon control. Who got the fight where they wanted it most often, created situations where they could score. Aggressiveness comes in last if everything else seems to be tied. And this one's going to be a tough one for the judges to go ahead. A nice takedown by Ron Waterman there, forcing him in the fence, ripping his legs out from under him. And then at the end, he was able to get him directly into the fence, almost perpendicular to the fence wall, so that Lasik had nowhere to move, and that allows him then the opportunity to go ahead and throw strikes at a stationary target. But that foul, more than anything, Mike, could have cost Ron Waterman this fight.
Good job, Ron.
Or perhaps winning this fight. It may end up a draw. We don't know.
Absolutely. Now, Waterman did a nice job in recovering from a second-round dominated by Tim Lasik. And Lasik showed his ability to both wrestle and box, but you know, he really wasn't able to do a whole lot when Waterman was able to get chest to chest because of giving away those 30 pounds. And those 30 pounds are definitely pure muscle.
Well, I think what he thought was he was just going to try to pummel in and not shoot on him, and because he said Greco-Roman wrestler, which gives the image of I'm going to come in, haul you into my upper body and stay close. And I'm sure Lasik thought he'd be able to throw good hands there, but it never came to that. Ron stuck with shooting on him, trying to get him down to the ground.
Now the judges have rendered a decision on our first heavyweight fight of the evening, and for the official word for heavyweight fight number 1, here's Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, due to the foul that was assessed Mr. Ron Waterman in the first round, the judges have called this fight a draw. We have a draw. Let's have a hand for both very game opponents.
I basically called it there. I felt that that foul was definitely going to come into play, and I didn't think Waterman did enough to lose the fight, but he certainly, with that foul, lost any chance of winning it.
Now, unfortunate because it was certainly unintentional, but that is what the rules state, and certainly I don't think you'll get an argument from Ron Waterman. There he is, Tito Ortiz, the challenger for the middleweight fight. The title fight tonight between Frank Shamrock and Tito Ortiz. And man, oh man, I'll tell you what, Tito appears to be very loose. He has been very confident, and he will fight Frank Shamrock for the title later this evening.
I can't wait.
Oh,
I can't wait.
And both of these fighters, newcomers to the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Lewis, born in Hawaii and fighting out of Las Vegas, and Lowell Anderson, a 31-year-old with the discipline of jiu-jitsu, will work his way towards the octagon first for this second lightweight fight of the night. Fighting now out of Fairfield, Idaho, born in Seattle, Washington, jiu-jitsu expert Lowell Anderson, 31 years old and coming in very light at 158 pounds.
And being a jiu-jitsu specialist, look for him to look for submissions. Physically very strong, and he comes out from the Gracie camp. And we don't need to talk too much about who Royce Gracie is in the UFC. I believe everyone who's a fan knows who Royce was and respects that former champion a great deal.
Now this is jiu-jitsu against jiu-jitsu, basically, Jeff, because John Lewis, BJJ as we call it here on the UFC, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And it's been a long time since we've seen someone work towards the octagon and sport the gi. Not sure if he'll wear it inside. He may actually do that. Since Royce, really, we haven't seen the gi displayed a whole heck of a lot. But nonetheless, John Lewis, 31 years old, a mixed martial arts record overall of 7-2-3. And in his first ever UFC type match, he took on Carlson Gracie Jr. Gracie Jr. was heavily favored, but Lewis shocked everyone by taking the match to a draw.
Lewis, a jiu-jitsu specialist, but he also has some good striking, so we could see a likely matchup where Lewis may want to just keep this on his feet and dare Anderson to try to take him down and just make him eat punches. It'll be an interesting strategy.
Well, no gi, just entered with it, and then he is down to the spandex shorts and ready to fight. Tail of the tape looks this way. Pretty much even. They are both 31 years old, both disciplined in jiu-jitsu. A size advantage, at least height-wise, given to John Lewis. Let's see if that has anything to do with the reach ability. And, of course, they're both under 160 pounds or less with Lewis and Lowell Anderson. Now, John Lewis has said already that he'd like to fight Pat Miletich. He thinks he'd match up well. Pat, hold your thoughts there. Let's get the official introductions first from Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, this next bout is a lightweight bout consisting of 3 5-minute rounds. Beginning with the fighter standing to my left. He is a jiu-jitsu expert making his UFC octagon debut. Standing 5 feet 6 inches tall, weighing in at 158 pounds, he comes to us from Fairfield, Idaho. Please welcome Lowell Anderson. And his opponent, standing to my right, he is a jiu-jitsu expert with a mixed martial arts record of 7, 2, and 3. Standing 6 feet tall, weighing in at 160 pounds, fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada. Please welcome John Lewis.
So John Lewis and Lowell Anderson, lightweights 169.9 and under, and both well under the needed weight. The last lightweight fight went the distance. Let's see how this goes.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get it on.
All right, two jiu-jitsu guys. Which one knows how to strike? We may find out very quickly. Lewis is the man with the body painting all over and the black and white striped shorts, and Anderson in the full black trunks, fighting out of Fairfield, Idaho.
Pat, I've got to ask you, as a lightweight champion, I'm sure you identify people and like to watch people and try to figure out their skill levels and tactics. What do you think of Mr. Lewis? He is ripped. Reminds me of Roy Jones, the way he kind of just is loaded and he's just waiting to explode and throw a bunch of punches.
His weight, you know, he's not quite 170 pounds. He's a little light, but I'm sure he could beef up to match up with somebody bigger in our division like myself.
Now, Pat Miletich joining us for this fight for some commentary, and then he'll be back in the corner of Jeremy Horn. Quick glance off the chin from Anderson to Lewis. Oh, man, he really can strike, and he has got Anderson in trouble. Very quick also, John Lewis. Tell us once again, Pat, what you are most impressed with about John Lewis.
He's just quick, and he's a very intelligent fighter. He can strike very well, and he's skilled on the ground. Everything about him, he's a dangerous guy. In here, he's going to be able to show his striking ability because he's fighting a guy that's done mostly strictly sport jiu-jitsu.
Right.
So this is a good opportunity for me to watch exactly what he does on his feet.
Well, I think you might have the best seat in the house.
I would believe so.
Oh, that left connected. Lewis is really happy to keep it on the feet here, and he said that before.
I had spoke with him before the fight, and he said that's what he wanted to do, keep him up. And I thought that would be a smart way to go about it because there's no reason to go to somebody's strength.
Well, they say wrestle the boxer and box the wrestler. Well, certainly when you get too similar, if you have another skill set that you're extremely articulate at, bingo, use it. And that's exactly what Lewis is doing.
Well, and Lewis has started training in Japanese kickboxing at 15 years old, so it's not as if the strikes are totally foreign to him. He received his black belt in that system and then trained and earned his black belt under legendary grappler Gene Judo LaBelle. So, I mean, this is a guy who has worked with Rickson Gracie, with Gene LaBelle, kickboxer. You know, you say Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but yet he has that Renaissance feel to his skills, like our champion sitting next to me right here, Pat Miletich.
It's just another example with Lowell Anderson. He's a great ground technician, but without the firepower on his feet, it makes it much tougher to take somebody down. If they don't respect your stand-up, it makes it easy to defend the takedown.
Now Anderson trying to at least exchange some punches here, Pat, and in the same breath is he trying to set up an opportunity to bring the fight to a different place? Or is he just happy to punch because he connected there?
Well, John's throwing straight punches and Lowell's looping his punches, so the straight ones are going to get there first most often, and I think that's where Lowell's going to lose in the exchanges. Anything can happen, but odds are John's going to dominate.
So if he can get it down, that's in Lowell's best interest.
Exactly.
1:15 remains in round one of 3 5-minute rounds here. We'll have a 5-minute round matchup between Tito Ortiz and Frank Shamrock. Middleweight championship still ahead tonight. Tell you what, these two guys are keeping very, very busy.
Well, the crowd seems pretty excited. There's not a whole lot of scoring going on, but there's a lot of leathers being thrown.
John's had him hurt a couple times. I thought he would have kept the pressure on him after he hurt him. I think John's just playing it safe and being smart.
He's still, I mean, he is very, very quick on his feet. And now they finally ramp up, and a knee delivered once and twice.
You got to give Lowell a lot of credit. He's fighting hard.
How frustrated is Lowell Anderson right now that he can't get it to his will?
I definitely, you can see the frustration in his eyes, but the guy's got a huge heart. He's out there slugging away, and that's great.
How much does frustration play in fatigue?
A lot, because if you're not doing what you want to do and you're fighting the other guy's game, you're fighting their pace, they're in control, they're taking the fight where they want to go, and they know where they're going the whole time, so it's easier for them to move. When you're the one that's constantly trying to switch and react, you're the one that's wearing yourself out.
I used to want to choke the coach with the whistle because he knew when he was going to blow it, and I had to react to it, and I used to hate it. Anybody can get on cue with those whistle drills if you know when the whistle's going to be blown. A good round for John Lewis. Great striking, very good speed, and like you said, Pat, he had Lowell Anderson in trouble, but he wasn't able to finish him off.
Yeah, I think the key for John is it's obvious. Every time he's connected with his hard left, he needs to work a double jab and then drop the left in on him. It's getting him in every time, and I think that's the key for him, is keep pumping that jab in his face and then dropping the left in.
And Lowell Anderson there had a right hand, but that was one of the few times he was able to connect at all. Most of it has been this style with Lewis aiming and throwing straight punches, as you said, Pat, as opposed to looping ones. And he seems to have carried most of the action, and certainly he doesn't seem to mind at all staying stand-up.
Turn it around.
I think he's very comfortable.
Lowell, turn it around. John, turn it around.
And we're ready to start round two.
Are you ready? Let's get it on. Come on.
And what will Anderson need to do to get inside? Can he slip a punch, or?
No, it's what he needs to do when you're having problems taking somebody down is you need to make them commit to defending against your strikes and then go right behind your own strikes. And he's having trouble doing that. You really need to make the guy respect your punches also.
How about the fence? Do you think pushing him into the fence and then trying to go down like this, now go after the legs?
I just don't think he's got the strength to do it. He needs to connect on some punches and then drop in on his legs fast and take him down.
Lewis leaning Anderson into the fence.
She sounds busy. Looking good. Come on.
Fighters chest to chest. Lewis disengages, wants to keep distance, get back to striking. Well, to Anderson's credit, he's not being over-aggressive, trying to make something happen and eating leather by walking into anything that Lewis plans on throwing. He's staying within himself, even though it must be frustrating for him that he can't get to Lewis's hips and can't get Lewis to the ground.
Yeah, if he is in a panic state in his head, he's not really showing it too much in the ring, so that's good. Nice uppercut.
Now, we also think of takedowns because we think we have to get the person down. What about just dropping in on an ankle and trying like an Oleg Taktarov leg lock at some time just to get the fight to go down to the ground?
That's a possibility if you can get in deep enough. I just don't see Lowell being able to do that with John.
Lowell was a teenage powerlifting champion, competing in 3 different weight classes. And you mentioned the Gracie background. He received his brown belt from Rorion Gracie, one of the founders of the UFC, and fought 6 dodo challenges for the Gracie Academy. Lowell, one of the founders of the Beverly Hills Jiu-Jitsu Club. And John Lewis certainly dominated in the first round. And I guess it's a scary feeling the way Lewis looks and how loose he was in the first. Now he's tied up for pretty much the first time here in the match. But it's one of those that with one punch can end very quickly. At least you get that feel, Pat. Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely. With John's already connected on a couple and hurt him. You can see that he can end the fight if he connects a couple more times. And the thing with John is he can take the fight where he wants it to go. He can stay on his feet, or if he decides that he wants to take it to the ground and see what Lowell's got on the ground, he can take it there.
Well, it's interesting. John Lewis, they both consider themselves specialized in jiu-jitsu, but John made some interesting comments pre-fight about how jiu-jitsu changes all the time now, and the fight world has evolved. And of course, we've had many long conversations with you about that, Pat. And you just cannot, and Jeff knows this too, you can't just be disciplined in one thing anymore, enter the gates and expect to have any success.
You've got to be skilled at everything: punching, kicking, knees, elbows, and submission grappling, along with wrestling takedowns. A lot of guys are still missing the boat. I'm amazed that this far along in the game that there are people who are not cross-training a lot. And you know, at one point in my life, when I started doing martial arts after wrestling my whole life, I quit wrestling for 2 years and just concentrated on kickboxing because I wanted to get good on my feet. And I think that's what a lot of guys need to do is abandon some of the stuff that they've done their whole life, and it'll come back just like riding a bike. It'll come back to them quick.
Lowell Anderson figured out how to get this fight to the ground.
Jumping into
the guard and dragging them down.
Yeah.
But it did work, and let's see if now if Lowell Anderson can find a way for his jiu-jitsu skill to outsmart Lewis's jiu-jitsu skill.
Well, I know Lowell's very technical. I've known about Lowell for years. Saw some films of him fighting in the Gracie Academy. When people would come in and challenge the Gracies, they put Lowell on them. And Lowell did very well a long time ago. So,
you know, it's interesting too, and the rounds are certainly an advantage a lot of times, but now it has taken almost the duration of 9 minutes for Lowell to, if you will, bring it to his world. No disrespect to Lewis's jiu-jitsu skills, but now this is where the round system becomes somewhat tactically of a disadvantage, because in 35 seconds they'll get the minute rest, they're back up on their feet.
Which Lowell does not want to see, I'm sure.
You got that right. And you know, you want to talk about the renaissance and the development of Pat Miletich, and he told the story about quitting wrestling. Pat has often been criticized, and I can say this, champion, with you sitting next to me, because we've talked about it, for being too tactical. Well, if you think Pat Miletich is too tactical, look at the tapes from the last show, Return of the Champions in Cedar Rapids, and see how Pat Miletich threw the leather against Andre Pedinaris, and Lee Malone put on a great show that night, Pat.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Time has expired here in the second round, and so far Lewis in control. And the question I suppose I put to both you, Jeff, and to Pat is, can Lowell get it down in his world again quickly to begin the third, and if so, how does he do it?
Come on, brother.
I'm starting to agree with Pat. I don't see a whole lot of ways, especially when the only way you could get it to the ground is push to the fence, which I thought was a good tactic because now the bodies are close and upright. But, you know, he's landing down in the guard. Lewis knows what he's going to do before he really even tries it, because he's great at jiu-jitsu as well. And really, we didn't have a lot of action there for the last 2 minutes.
The striking changes everything. It really does. If these guys were in a sport jiu-jitsu match with gis, I'm sure we'd see a lot of rolling around and going for things. But when you have to defend the punches, it makes it a lot different.
Now we've got some great matchups still on the card tonight. Jeremy Horn will be next up to take on Jason Godsey, Paul Jones, and Chuck Liddell in the middleweight division. And then our title fight between Simply Frank and Vito. Frank Shamrock and Tito Ortiz quickly in this break. Both sides talk to their corners, and we get set for the third and final round. Lewis back on his feet, where he has been the dominant fighter.
Now, what do you think of Lewis keeping his hands down and stand up?
Lots of knees. Lots of knees. He got Anderson good. And the towel is thrown. The fight is over. And John Lewis is victorious.
I was wondering when he was going to start throwing the knees because he's got so much height on Lowell. All right. That was beautiful.
I wanted to do it. Sounds good to me, man.
Heads up job done by the corner of Lowell Anderson also. Heads up job done by his manager, Tom Sutnick, and his corner to throw in the towel.
An explosive burst from Lewis. Anderson came in throwing heavy lever, and as they clinched, Lewis started bringing up the knees, and that one there connected squarely on his forehead and caused a cut. Quickly right there, the towel came in and Lewis disengaged. And that's the beauty of the sport, in that they're always in control. They're a thinking sport, thinking athletes, and you could see as soon as Lewis saw the towel, he disengaged.
Hey, Pat, what did we say a couple of minutes ago? This is the type of fight that you feel that at any second, John Lewis could take over, and he just did.
Yeah, it was just a matter of time before he landed something. Lowell put it on the line, though, and give him credit. He put it on the line, he came out and got after it.
Now, a great fight. 2 lightweight matchups, very impressive, and more challengers for the man sitting next to me, Pat Miletich, for the official word and the announcement of our victor. Here's Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, at 4 minutes and 42 seconds of the third round, the fight has been stopped with the winner, John Lewis.
Congratulations to John Lewis. Real quickly, what do we see from Jeremy Horn next up as he goes into the heavyweight division?
Jeremy improves every day. Watch out, because he's going to come out and set the ring on fire. I almost guarantee it.
All right, go take care of Jeremy, Pat. I know you're anxious to do that. And still ahead, our title fight this evening. There is the reigning middleweight champion of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, Frank Shamrock. And working and getting warmed up, Frank Shamrock set to take on Tito Ortiz, our title fight tonight. You thought you saw the best fighters in the world 1 week ago? Some would beg to differ. And Frank Shamrock, 26 years old, has moved himself up to 198 pounds. And he is set to take on Tito Ortiz, still on our card tonight. Now, Jeff, there he is, Jeremy Horn, fighting against Jason Godsey, a heavyweight. I just talked to Jeremy in the locker room before the fight, and I said, well, all right, what's the positive? What's the negative? The positive of moving to the heavyweights is that he doesn't have to cut weight. The negatives, he's fighting a man as big as him tonight for the first time in his UFC career.
When we first met Jeremy Horn, the thin 23-year-old was taking on Frank Shamrock for the UFC middleweight title. Since then, not only has this young man matured in the UFC, he seems to have gotten a lot bigger and stronger each time he enters the octagon. After struggling to make weight for the middleweight division at last July's UFC 21, he destroyed Japanese fighter Deju Takase. Tonight, Jeremy Horn embarks on a new career in the UFC's heavyweight division. Heavyweight Jason Godsey made his UFC debut at last March's UFC 19. Taking on top-ranked Lions Den fighter Pete Williams, Godsey showed off his skills on the ground before Williams turned the tides and was able to score the leg lock submission. Still looking for his first UFC victory, Jason Godsey returns tonight.
So Jeremy Horn no longer a middleweight, and Jason Godsey continues to be a heavyweight. This, we expect, should be a heck of a matchup. There's a big Hoist Gracie fan who says Hoist still rules, and working his way through the smoke is one Jason Godsey. His second UFC, he debuted at UFC 19, and he was knee-barred by Petey Williams of the Lions Den at 154 of the matchup. Now, Jason feels he went into that Pete Williams fight with the wrong strategy. He said it was an example of a little knowledge being a dangerous thing. He went for a knee bar from a bad position, got himself submitted. He wants to have a better showing tonight. Somewhat like Waterman's situation and Tim Lasix, Godsey knows a victory needs to be earned tonight inside the gates.
Certainly the pressure is on him. He can't afford a loss here, really, or it really might spell trouble for his career. The one big advantage he has is perhaps as a heavyweight striker, that can be an advantage over what normally is a middleweight striker. But Jeremy Horn, we've seen, is very talented. He's got good coaching, such as Pat Miletich and the rest of the athletes at that camp. I'm sure Jeremy knows what he's getting into, and more than anything, he wants to avenge a loss on his record, a loss to Jason Godsey very early in his career.
That goes back a ways, but yes, Godsey has gotten the better of Horn in mixed martial arts before. Now, Horn comes in to the heavyweight division at a little over his normal weight of around 215, about 15 pounds heavier than that. This is his 5th appearance inside the octagon, a record of 2-2.
Jeremy Horn, as Pat Miletich said, continues to get better. Braga down in Ultimate Brazil was able to choke Jeremy Horn out, but that really was his poorest performance. Other than that, he has performed very well in the octagon.
11 years younger than Jason Godsey and still giving up 22 pounds at 229, Jeremy Horn and Jason Godsey. Godsey Integrated Fighting out of Indianapolis, Indiana. For the official introductions, once again inside the octagon, here's Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next fight is a heavyweight fight consisting of 3 5-minute rounds. Beginning with the fighter standing to my left. He is an integrated fighter with a mixed martial arts record of 9-4. Standing 6 feet, 2 inches tall, weighing in at 251 pounds. fighting out of Indianapolis, Indiana, please welcome Jason Godsey. And his opponent, no stranger to the octagon, and now stepping up into the heavyweight division. He is a freestyle jiu-jitsu expert with a mixed martial arts record of 33, 4, and 4. Standing 6 feet, 1 inch tall, weighing in at 229 pounds. Fighting out of Moline, Illinois, please welcome Jeremy Horn.
Jeremy has said that he does not anticipate he'll spend the rest of his career in the heavyweight division, but yet he takes the fight in the heavyweight division here. It'll be interesting to see how it goes for Jeremy Horn.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get it on.
Here we go. Second heavyweight matchup of the night. And our heavyweights gave us a great show in the first matchup. A leg is shown. Remember, jiu-jitsu is a great base for Jeremy Horn, but he will not be able to overpower his opponent, Jason Godsey, as he has been able to do with some of his opponents in the past. Oh, there's a right.
He doesn't want to try to muscle with Godsey. He wants to use movement and angles, particularly early on, and let Godsey spend the energy with Keith Collins.
He's going to be the quicker of the athletes in this particular situation.
Now, usually the lighter guy is, but Jeremy's pretty deliberate in his approach with people, and what he's very good at is down on the ground. That's where he's improved the most.
Well, he's won his last 2 fights after losing his first 2, but the first was so impressive, is showing in Mobile, Alabama against Frank Shamrock. That was one of Frank's early title defenses. That one going into the overtime period before Jeremy made a tactical mistake and got knee barred. He delivers a punch to the face of Jason Godsey from his own guard, and now a closed guard applied on Jason Godsey. This is where it could get interesting. This is where it's a different world for Jeremy Horn.
Well, jiu-jitsu, he should be very familiar with the guard, but normally Jeremy has found himself on top, not on the bottom.
Right, in a different world, and about 70 pounds more, right?
Yeah, no doubt with the weight. And there's a nice little elevator by Horn, but Godsey stays with it. Nice motion there, great action. This is where people need to understand how effective the grappling game is. That whole scramble right there really is something that a lot of the athletes do practice. Attempted reversal by Jeremy Horn. Godsey able to hang in there. Both of them realize that, you know, if I can't get the move, I got to get back to safe haven. And for Horn, that's getting Godsey back into his guard. Armbar, and that was it.
That was fast. Yeah, and you know, I was just about to say, Jeff, it's his jiu-jitsu that he used effectively against Frank Shamrock, and that is what he went back to. His strength, Godsey, trying to throw a punch, exposed an arm, and it ends that quickly with Jeremy Horn winning by submission.
Probably what set that up more than anything is Jeremy didn't lay there in his guard. He constantly moved. He had what we call an active guard. And in an active guard, you flow. And if your opponent is not used to that at any time, Jeremy can kick off of that movement and try to attack a limb. And there, he just felt the arm in position, transitioned beautifully to the armbar.
Now it comes at 2:08. Watch it here.
He lifts. This is the near reversal. This was a real good scramble. Jeremy trying to twist one way. Godsey able to hang onto the legs immediately, puts him back into the guard. But notice Jeremy's active. He's moving. His hands are moving. His legs are constantly moving. And right there, he just hooks it up, went the other way with the arm, but able to get him to tap. Submission win for Jeremy Horn. He continues his march.
Now a great job by Jeremy Horn for the official word. Here's Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a winner by tap out due to an armbar at 2 minutes, 8 seconds in the first round for the winner, Jeremy Horn.
Good job, baby. Good job.
Jeremy Horn continues to improve, and now showing that he can compete with some of the heavyweights. A very active guard here. He's never just laying on his back. He's constantly moving his hips, and right there, he just transitioned very quickly, very smoothly into that arm bar. Gotze really never saw it coming. Boom, that quick. Locks it right up, and you see Gotze tapping immediately. Jeremy respecting the tap, disengaging.
So let's get back towards our middleweights. We have 2 middleweight matches now to end the evening. Paul Jones and Chuck Liddell. These are both guys who can throw the leather, especially Liddell, the kickboxer, as he takes on the wrestler Paul Jones in a middleweight matchup here tonight in Lake Charles. Now they call him the Iceman, Chuck Liddell, to take on the shoot fighter Paul Jones. And Jones impressive in his debut against Flavio Mora, winning at UFC 21 out of Boys Ranch, Texas. Not far down the road outside of Amarillo, and Chuck Liddell a little further to travel from San Luis Obispo, California. Born in Santa Barbara, and his UFC record, as was just mentioned, 1-1. He would like a rematch someday with Jeremy Horn. Right now, Liddell is still cut at 199 in middleweight, and Jones about the same. And a world champion kickboxer, Chuck Liddell, he likes to throw strikes, Jeff.
He absolutely does. He's great on his feet, striking ability. With that tall, lanky body, he has some good reach. He's able to connect from outside. I really think this is what he's going to try to do against Paul Jones, is to keep him outside and use his stand-up.
Now the decoration on the side of his head, the tattoos, I asked him yesterday, it means a place of peace and prosperity.
Got any questions about anything?
In between the ears of Chuck Liddell, the Iceman, the kickboxer, 29 years old. Liddell's opponent, a shoot fighter. Excellent grappling skills. He studied judo, he studied sambo, he's been doing lots of work on his conditioning. He's a quiet man, a father, a husband, a teacher, and a coach. Married with 3 daughters, wrestled in Iowa and Nebraska. And man, oh man, what a debut it was for Paul Jones, who beat the Brazilian Mora in 421 by tap out. And he won by the rear naked choke, but he took some hits in that fight.
Start the fight off, he ate a punch and it nearly set him down. I mean, he was stunned by it, but he was able to recover, get to his takedown, able to put his opponent down, and eventually win.
The tail of the tape, age difference for sure, 7 years. And Jones is short, compact, and Liddell already, you would think on paper, the better striker, and he does have a reach advantage in this first of 2 middleweight matchups. The big one still ahead, Frank Shamrock and Tito Ortiz. But first things first, here's Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, this next event is a middleweight bout consisting of 3 5-minute rounds. Beginning with the fighter standing to my left. He is a kickboxer with a mixed martial arts record of 3-1. Standing 6 feet, 2 inches tall, weighing in at 199 pounds. He fights out of San Luis Obispo, California. Please welcome back, Chuck Liddell. And his opponent, standing to my right, he is a shoot fighter with a mixed martial arts record of 18-0-1. Standing 5 feet, 9 inches tall, weighing in at 198 pounds. He comes to us from Boys Ranch, Texas. Please welcome Paul Jones.
Head wrestling coach and football coach at Boys Ranch High School. That man works with the Los Angeles Police Department. He's our veteran referee, Big John McCarthy.
Are you ready? Let's get it on.
My favorite words, and here we go, the middleweights.
John Peretti, how much will the kicking of Chuck Liddell play into this?
I think it's important, but Jones has got more experience in this, and I think it'd be nice to keep him away, but Jones isn't going to be afraid of him. You know, like Liddell was a good wrestler. Jones is a better wrestler, but the well-roundedness I think is really important.
Well, no surprise to anyone that Paul Jones has said his best scenario is to get it to the ground. He does not want to fight, if you will, in Chuck Liddell's world.
You know, Chuck Liddell wasn't beaten by Jeremy Horn because he was a better wrestler. Jeremy Horn beat him because he was a better jiu-jitsu guy. Jones is in trouble if Liddell can handle him as a wrestler. What do you think, John?
I agree with that. And really what's helping Chuck Liddell is he's joined Team Punishment and he's working with Tito Ortiz. And Tito Ortiz is a good wrestler, very good wrestler, and certainly can help Chuck Liddell with a lanky body similar to Tito Ortiz be able to learn how to defend against takedowns. And thus far against Paul Jones, he's doing just that. Ooh, big knee.
John, you as a matchmaker have to be so impressed when you find these fighters smart enough to put their egos aside and learn the other skills so they can truly be successful.
It's really rare, I'll tell you right now. And it's really rare with wrestlers because usually wrestlers have that one gear that's so driven, you know, so I find it really rare. I think Chuck is growing here. Now Paul's playing into a bad, terrible position against the kickboxer.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, you get kicked in the elbow or you get kicked in the face. Coleman, Pete Williams is an example of that.
Jones went under him and strained for over 2 minutes trying to get it, well, nearly 2 minutes trying to get a takedown. And I believe he is arm weary at this point. He looked exhausted. You don't put your hands on your knees unless you are in a big anaerobic state.
If a guy in a long time ago ever put his hands on his knees, here comes a knee, by the way, then you kick him in the elbow because he's got so much weight on his arm.
And Jones appears to have a case of fatigue real early. There's the high kick, and he just missed.
By the way, he never saw it. Jones is very good at that single leg tackle, but I don't know where it's going to go. Aren't you supposed to go behind, Jeff?
Well, at this point here, you want to spin on it. Now he can come up with it. Now he can come up with it. But he's electing to stay down, and that's not going to help him. They're bound up against the fence, and that's only going to help Liddell because he's not going to collapse to his hip. The fence is holding him up.
3 times 5 again. 3 5-minute rounds in this middleweight matchup.
This isn't going to go that far.
There's no way Paul Jones, it looked like with his conditioning level, is going to be able to go the distance. He's just hanging on here, what we call a stalemate wrestling. And Liddell should take advantage of it and start striking.
But we've seen Chuck show no shyness from striking all over the place, and it'll be interesting to see when he really throws an all-out assault here.
When you start to get at the top of the pyramid, you know, just small differences are so important. You know, here Liddell has got a little experience, and it's working for him.
Chuck Liddell cannot hold on to the fence. John McCarthy warns him. Chuck wisely lets go. But he was able to free, I don't think it was endangered, John and Jeff, I think you'll agree, but he was able to free the ankle, and now he's in control again.
Paul's in trouble.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Paul's in big trouble. Paul is cut, and John McCarthy has stopped the fight.
I think he's having a medical stoppage.
A medical stoppage, fair enough.
A medical stoppage.
Did he stop it, or is it, yeah, that's what I thought. It's all over.
The cut was open over the left eye of Paul Jones, and there it is. Now it's over.
The end of the fight.
It is over, and Chuck Liddell victorious here in the heavyweight matchup over Paul Jones.
He's really proved that he is really getting better.
And if he is working out with Tito Ortiz, it seems to be showing. Ortiz.
You okay?
It's showing there. He's got his own T-shirt.
Excited in the corner of Chuck Liddell, Scott Adams, John Lewis, John Hackelman, and they are excited to see what is still ahead tonight with Team Punishment and Tito Ortiz. This is how it ended.
That's after he already had eaten that punch. It was a left hand by Liddell or an elbow that opened up the cut on Paul Jones, and he retreated from it, and John McCarthy, quick to see the damage, stepped in, and when they took him to the corner, the fight was stopped.
Well, Paul's fatigue set in very early, and for the official word, we now go inside the octagon, and the veteran voice ready to give the official decision, Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, Big John McCarthy has stopped the fight at 3:53 of the first round due to a cut. For the winner, Chuck Liddell.
Well, John, what do you think is next for someone like a Chuck Liddell?
He's got to step up stylistically now. He's got to step up stylistically now. It's very important that he goes against, you know, leg lockers. The Japanese are probably the way to go for him now, because it's such a different game. You know, that Kosaka, I'm not not ever, you know, excited, turn on my back, I'll go for a leg, you know, that kind of game. But there's a lot of middleweight Japanese out there like that.
Now we've got a very special announcement to make, and for that we go inside the octagon. Here's Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I would like to introduce to you the President and CEO of SCG Sports, promoters of the UFC, Mr. Robert Meyerowitz.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank Lake Charles, Louisiana for a great crowd, great hospitality. Give yourselves a hand. The diversity of the UFC is that this time we're here in Lake Charles, Louisiana. Our next show will be November 14th in Tokyo, Japan. I would like to introduce my partner, the president of UFC J, the man who will bring the UFC to Japan in November, Mr. Kuroki, who would like to say a few words to all of our fans in Japan.
Thank you. We will have a great UFC fight in Tokyo on November 14. Thank you, Lake Charles, Louisiana.
So mark it down right now, November 14th from Tokyo, Japan. And tonight, a great fight took place, as we say, in the dark between Brad Kohler and his opponent earlier. We will take you back to our preliminary heavyweight matchup involving Brad Kohler and Steve Judson. Now, our second preliminary fight of the night will be a heavyweight matchup between Brad Kohler, who will re-enter the octagon for the first time since UFC Japan in December of '97, and he will take on newcomer Steve Judson from the discipline of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Judson was born in Huntsville, Alabama, and is fighting out of Phoenix, Arizona. And Steve Judson, married with 2 daughters, has a strong camp, which includes David Dodd and Megaton Diaz, and he is looking forward to showing his stuff today and has a good experience in the sport of pancrase. Steve Judson, 30 years old, 6'1", 220 pounds. Key elements to his ability, his groundwork, and his submission. And talking about Brad Kohler, he said, hey, I know he's a little tank that's got a lot of gas. And it will be a different type of fighter that Steve Judson will face here tonight, led in by David Dodd, a UFC veteran in his own right. And Steve Judson enters the octagon for the first time in his UFC career.
Judson, a good jiu-jitsu specialist. He has been working on his strike defense because he feels Kohler can be coming out and hitting him, and he comes from that Brazilian jiu-jitsu background. So look for him to try to get on the ground, go for submissions.
Now Brad Kohler, a former state champion wrestler in the state of Ohio. Born in a suburb of Cleveland, Fairview Park, Ohio, now fighting out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. He is short and compact, 5'9", nearly 230 pounds, 35 years old. In the past, he had wrestled and trained with the likes of Rico Chiapparelli and the Hammer House, which includes Mark Coleman. He trained at Ohio State, at Cleveland State. Now, he's kind of gone off on his own, but he's also had an opportunity to pick up the camp of Pat Miletich, and he thinks that will help him. Feels like he's got a great support system for the fight here this evening. Speed, 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 ground and pound, and on a little tank like that, you often wonder, what part of the body can you grab? Kohler is 5 years older. He gives up 4 inches, but the weight is, as I said, pretty much the same at 234 and 230 for this matchup between Brad Kohler and Steve Judson. For the official introduction of our second preliminary matchup, this in the heavyweight division, we go inside the octagon to Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next bout is a heavyweight alternate bout consisting of 2 5-minute rounds. Beginning with the fighter standing to my left. This is a jiu-jitsu expert with a mixed martial arts record of 4-0. Standing 6 feet, 1 inch tall, weighing in at 230 pounds, and fighting out of Phoenix, Arizona, please welcome Steve Judson. martial arts record of 14-4. Standing 5 feet, 9 inches tall, weighing in at 234 pounds. Fighting out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, please welcome Brad Kohler. Oh man, we gotta fix this.
So Brad Kohler against Steve Judson. And our referee once again, Big John McCarthy. They clear the octagon, and Kohler and Judson, two heavyweights, looking to go at it toe-to-toe here in our matchup. Number 2, the preliminary fight today.
All right, here we go. You ready, Steve? Are you ready, Brad? Let's get it on. Come on.
Here we go. Judson and Kohler. And Kohler dancing quickly.
Kohler's very explosive. Early on, he's just unbelievably powerful. Quick double leg by Kohler. Now let's see what he's picked up in the world of submission.
He quickly tries to get into a choke submission.
Front headlock here again. Wrestler using front headlock and a knee as a backup.
Kohler does have great speed and good lateral movement. Oh my goodness! Wow!
That's it.
I'll tell you what, Jeff, that is as impressive as we have seen of a knockout in a long time. That fight was earlier tonight as Brad Kohler knocked out Steve Judson. Steve was taken to a local hospital. He has been released. He is just fine, and he will be back to fight in the future. But impressive for Brad Kohler.
Well, Frank Shamrock and Tito Ortiz are getting ready. It's our main event, the middleweight championship. The title is up for grabs here at the UFC, and I think people have been waiting at least a year for this fight, and certainly with Tito Ortiz's success through his last couple of fights that included Guy Metzger and Jerry Bolander of the Lions Den, has created a lot of tension, I think is the best word, between the Ortiz and Shamrock camp.
Well, Ken Shamrock has certainly been separated from little brother Frank in a lot of ways, but still, Guy and Jerry are Frank's friends. But Frank has been quick also to say that this fight is not for those guys. He respects him, he loves him, he always will. This fight is for himself. And Frank wants to once again establish himself, or reestablish, depending on how you look at it, as the greatest fighter in the world. And so far, and you will be reminded of it right now, he has been as impressive as anyone.
Frank Shamrock is the undisputed UFC middleweight champion of the world. Maybe the finest under 200-pound fighter to ever enter the octagon. Shamrock made his UFC debut at Ultimate Japan in December of '97. On paper, the fight looked great. Shamrock, the submission expert, former King of Pancrase versus Kevin Jackson, Olympic gold medalist, undefeated in the octagon.
There you go, Kevin. You got him. You got him. Let's go right down, right down. Bring him back. Put the arm on.
The UFC had crowned its first middleweight champion, and his name was Frank Shamrock. Eager to defend his new title, Shamrock agreed to fight former Extreme Fighting champion 3 months later at the UFC 16 in New Orleans. Again, the fight looked great on paper. Again, the same result.
Oh my! He's out! He's out cold! He's out cold! He dropped him on his head. He's out cold!
Frank Shamrock defends his title!
Frank Shamrock had spent 46 seconds in the octagon and executed a perfect armbar and a devastating double-leg takedown. He was now 2-0 and still hadn't broken sweat.
I'll do anything. I'll fight anyone. You bring them on. I don't care who they are, what they've done. I'm up.
His next defense would come not so easily, however. It took the champion the entire regulation and 2 minutes in the overtime period to pull out the victory over then rookie Jeremy Horn during UFC Night of Champions. A scare to the champion, but Frank Shamrock had again successfully defended his title.
Frank Shamrock defends the middleweight title.
For his next defense, Shamrock would travel all the way to Sao Paulo, Brazil to take on John the Machine Lober. Lober held the distinction of being the only man to ever defeat Shamrock in mixed martial arts competition, and the champion came in ready to seek revenge. Shamrock dominated and punished Lober before winning by tap out. The normally reserved champion showed that when he wanted to turn it on, there was no one in the world who could handle him.
My plan was to beat the crap out of him. I really didn't like what he was saying and how he was carrying himself, so I made him quit. I made him tell me to stop. I made him say, I quit, I give up, please don't hit me anymore. I made him cry uncle.
And so tonight, almost an entire year since his last appearance in the Octagon, Frank Shamrock returns to the UFC. His belt up for grabs for the 4th time. He faces perhaps his most difficult opponent yet in Tito Ortiz. And with family honor and Lion's Den pride on the line, there's no question that Frank Shamrock means business.
I'll tell you what, you love and admire that particular shot of Frank Shamrock.
Oh, when he's sitting there pacing or bobbing back and forth in front of that fence, looks like a caged animal. Very intense individual. And really, aside from fighting, he's one of the most personable guys around, a jokester.
And so is Tito Ortiz, and he is now known as the Huntington Beach Bad Boy. If this year has belonged to any middleweight, it's belonged to Tito. And tonight he gets a chance to reign supreme.
Call him cocky. Call him rude. Call him good.
I come in here and I let my fight do the talking.
Tito Ortiz enters the Octagon tonight as the #1 contender in the UFC's middleweight division. Big, powerful, and focused, Tito has elevated himself to the highest level of mixed martial arts competition and set himself up for a shot at Frank Shamrock's title. In doing so, he's not only reinvented himself as a fighter, but has taken out 2 of Shamrock's former training partners and personally declawed the Lion's Den.
2 straight wins against the Lions Den, and Ken Shamrock is upset.
Oh, I'd be upset as hell too. I beat up on his 2 #1 contenders in the room. Kind of beat up the little alley cats and sent him back to the litter box.
When Tito appeared at UFC 18, fans hadn't seen him since his controversial loss to Guy Mezger way back at UFC 13. The Tito Ortiz that dismantled favorite Jerry Bolander that night was a bigger, stronger, more mature fighter than the amateur who lost at UFC 13. Tito was back, and back in serious heat.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get it on! Come on!
At UFC 19, Ortiz would get his chance to redeem his only loss in the Octagon. Lions Den fighter Guy Mezger was the opponent. Same camp, same result. Ortiz out-muscled Mezger throughout, and referee John McCarthy stopped the fight. Tito Ortiz had knocked off 2 of the best middleweight fighters in the world, who also happened to be 2 of Frank Shamrock's training partners, and 2 of Ken Shamrock's proteges. The scene was ripe for high tensions, and something had to give.
Ken Shamrock very upset with the disrespect shown towards the Lions Den corner.
So tonight, Tito Ortiz looks to knock off another, albeit former Lions Den fighter in champion Frank Shamrock. Both swear it's all business, but there's a feeling that this one is personal. Either way, this is the biggest fight of Tito Ortiz's young career.
Oh, baby. Partner, are you ready?
I've been waiting for this for a long time. I think these are 2 of the best that have ever entered the Octagon.
I'm ready. You're ready. As Big John would say, let's get it on. The Huntington Beach Bad Boy, 24 years old, 3-1 in the UFC. Bring on the Den, and now he takes on the graduate of the Den. On Frank Shamrock, Tito has said, I think that Frank is the best fighter pound for pound right now, but this should be my best test. I will perform well. I think this will be the best fight of the century.
I couldn't agree with him more. And there's Tito, great stand-up skills, and what he's really done is been able to avoid submission. And I'm looking at a guy running around in bare feet. I've been told that he's been training some kickboxing, and I think that's why he took the shoes off.
John Lober in his corner, along with John Spencer. Here he is, the middleweight champion of the world, Frank Shamrock. led by his wife Angelina, Tsuyoshi Kosaka, and Maurice Smith. He's been working out with the Stanford wrestling team from San Jose, California. 26-year-old champion, 4-0 in the UFC, Frank Shamrock.
Well, Frank is a submission master, a versatile striker who's really been working hard on both leg kicks and his punching ability. And Frank never seems to get tired inside the octagon.
All right, best of luck.
Tail of the tape should include one thing verbally. Frank Juarez Shamrock, as he is still appealing towards his own identity. 26 and 24, 5'10", 6'2". Watch for the reach of Tito Ortiz, and that was his weigh-in weight at 199. He's about 215. There's a definitive weight advantage for Tito Ortiz. Just quiet for 1 second. There is anticipation in the house tonight. There is anticipation for this matchup. This is what it's all about. Here's Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come. The moment of truth has arrived. This is the main event of the evening. This 5-round middleweight bout will determine the UFC middleweight champion of the world. Remember, both of these men have entered the octagon as true warriors, and they both know that only one will leave a champion. Let's begin with the fighter standing to my left. He is a submission fighter with a UFC record of 3-1. He is a veteran of UFC 13, UFC 18, and UFC 19. Standing 6 feet 2 inches tall, weighing in at 199 pounds. He is the #1 UFC contender for the middleweight crown. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back the bad boy from Huntington Beach, California, Tito Ortiz. And to my right, you all know this man. He is a submission fighter with a UFC record of 4-0. He is a veteran of Ultimate Japan, UFC 16, Night of Champions, and Ultimate Brazil. Standing 5 feet 10 inches tall, weighing in at 198 pounds. He's fighting out of San Jose, California. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the 4-time undefeated, undisputed UFC middleweight champion of the world, Frank Juarez Shamrock.
All the talking, all the anticipation has come to a close, and now it is time for Big John McCarthy to yell out those 4 famous words.
UFC middleweight championship, are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get it on!
I am tingling here. I love both these athletes. It's going to be hard to pick a winner. And right away, Shamrock kicks. And this is what I thought might happen, is that Tito might catch the leg to bring him down, but he wants to go stand up, and there it'll be. Tito wants to test the stand up. Frank obliges him.
We saw Frank with great stand up the last time he was inside the octagon against John Lober. They've been waiting a long time to entangle. Respect, but no love lost.
Frank immediately turning to face his opponent, trying to get in a half guard.
Ortiz delivers some shots. And he is going to allow, I would think, Shamrock up again. Shamrock trying to work the legs from the bottom, and now they're back up on their feet. Tito Ortiz, former sparring partner of Tank Abbott's, against Frank Shamrock. Almost got the leg caught again.
Well, he's prepared. I mean, he's done some kickboxing. He wanted to learn how people kick and what he could do with it. So he anticipated Shamrock shooting on him, kicking him.
Oh, look at the flexibility and mobility of Shamrock. He's spinning out of that.
He is such a, he was looking for a submission there. He's trying to tie up an arm. He is so flexible and at the same time mobile in the guard. Very active athlete.
Does he move his hips there to try to gain position, Jeff?
Exactly. That's exactly what he was doing. He nailed the arm. He just couldn't set the position to lock it up.
I mean, he shot Kevin Jackson in Japan, setting the submission. Now Tito's going to work the ribs, and Frank checks off to his corner and Maurice Smith.
And that might be Tito's biggest weakness, is he tries to stalemate and avoid the submissions. Frank's a master of them. So if Frank can keep this active guard going, he might be able to catch Tito in transition. Most people attack you with a one-move burst, and that's all. Frank attacks you with a constant direction where he's always moving and waiting to see your reaction and trying to anticipate. And when he does anticipate correctly, he tries to set up the submission again.
This one is slated for 5 rounds, 5 minutes each.
Push away, Frank. Okay,
Middleweight championship, first round. Shamrock and Ortiz.
Guard, Frank, under guard. Get him off you. Get him off you, Frankie.
It'll become tactical at times. And remember, Shamrock, he's bulked up to 198, but still he gives away about 15 pounds.
He jokingly got on the scale and started emptying things out of his pockets, but he was fully clothed at 198.
Frank's philosophy is always to go out and give 100%. He doesn't stop, he doesn't rest, he just goes, and goes.
And look at him, he's just always moving. He may not get up, but Tito spends a lot of energy trying to keep him down, and that's what I think Frank wants to do. He wants to test Tito's shape.
Well, he has said about Tito, he's a big, strong wrestler, and he said he didn't see much else out of Tito, but Tito seemed to be happy to try to punch with him early. We've seen Tito throw some good punches.
Now, Tito felt that his stand-up ability is equal to Frank's, so he wanted to test that. I'm sure he doesn't feel his submission skills are equal to Frank's, but he feels that he can avoid submissions successfully.
Tito trying to work inside Frank Shamrock's guard. Now Shamrock with the closed guard. He's working the outside guard, unlike TK and Maurice, who use that TK guard, which is a bit different. Frank's got incredible flexibility.
Savvy, too, using his feet to try to adjust to get his head off the fence. This is a position for a ground and pound specialist. You want to be able to have a stationary target to throw punches at, and if you're bound up against the fence, that's what you become.
Oh, open hand. But still, is Shamrock trying to listen to the advice of Maurice Smith. Shamrock trying to work up to his feet. And Ortiz delivers a couple of shots. Shamrock keeps him close, though.
Well, Ortiz is leaning on him, holding him to the fence. Now we'll see what kind of... Now he's going to keep him down.
Ortiz impressive here in the first round.
20 seconds, Frank, 20 seconds.
He's keeping the champion down on the mat and trying to work ground and pound tactics. Shamrock very active in his guard position. He's forcing Tito Ortiz to spend a lot of energy, and this may be something he wants to do, thinking that he might go into deficit later into the fight.
Oh, a strong finish to round one for Tito Ortiz.
This crowd is loving it. And this is a 5-round fight, a championship fight. A title bout will go 5 5-minute rounds. So there's lots of time to play with. Certainly that was not a dominant round by any means by either fighter, but it did look like the edge went to Tito Ortiz. Early in the first period, Frank trying a kick, Tito catching the leg, and when Frank tried to pull the leg back, lost his balance, Tito chose to keep it on the feet. And here Tito got behind Frank, and when he finally dropped him down, Frank turned to face him to try to get him into guard. And this was that one attempt at Tito's arm, Frank trying to hook it up, but Tito able to block it and get away, but look how quickly Frank returns to guard position to protect himself.
If there was any doubt in Tito's mind that he could truly hang with Frank, is that doubt gone now?
No, not yet. Conditioning is going to be the factor. Conditioning reigns supreme. If you take a break, we saw Kevin Jackson take a momentary break against Jerry Bolander, and bang, he got submitted. Nobody can take a break now in the octagon. No one. And these two guys are good. Whoa, Frank coming up high.
Part of the alliance, and I know he learned that from Maurice Smith. We haven't seen Frank throw a lot of kicks. We've seen him throw some punches. He's trying some different things, working the game. And down he goes again.
And he doesn't mind this. Frank does not mind this being on his back. He may have given up a score of a takedown, whatever points the judges feel that is worthy of him, they take down his scoring. But he is not afraid to be down here. He likes it down here. And I loved what he had to say in his bio. People get frightened from what they don't know. He has been in this position so many times with his partners in the Lions Den. He knows what to do here, so he is always unafraid. And Frank is a risk taker, and those that take risks find big rewards. You can find unsuccessful events happening, but you can also find that big reward. And that's what champs do. They take risks when they need to.
Crowd is on their feet here in Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Tito is not having his way with Frank. He is finding it difficult to work through Frank Shamrock's guard, and he's spending a lot of energy down there. Frank continues to be active in that guard. It's going to really put a test on Tito Ortiz's cardio. I think this is a ploy by Frank Shamrock. I really feel he feels he's in better shape, better cardio, better stamina, and that he wants to test Tito Ortiz.
Well, Frank has always said, and it is a direct quote from our champion, condition is my best submission hold. Now, Tito Ortiz has a wrestling background, and he appears to be in great shape. Maurice Smith, part of the alliance, in the corner of Frank Shamrock. Glover and Spencer in the corner of Tito Ortiz.
Look how Frank accepts that power by Tito Ortiz. He just coils up and accepts it.
See, Tito tried to strike there, and Frank just got the big arms in front, and none delivered.
This is what the tactic of guard is. Even with an inactive tactic, it's to make the inactive guard, it's to make the top man spend energy. And thus far, that's exactly what Frank has done.
Frank said he has never trained as hard as he has for this one. In a lot of different ways he's trained. He thinks it'll either be a very fast night, or he says, I am going to make it a very long one and beat the living stuff out of him. Not directly what he said. Those are some shots to the ribs of Frank Shamrock.
Now, Tito seems to be becoming a little more active now, pressing here in Frank Shamrock's guard to try to get some scoring in.
Again, I wonder, though, Jeff, conditioning aside, does Tito's confidence get better and better as the fight goes on?
I think the two go together. As Pat Miletich said earlier, you know, if you are frustrated, it certainly accelerates how quickly you fatigue. Not only mentally, where you start to make mistakes mentally, but also physically, because you're unsure of what to do and you're all bound up with energy and you don't know how to spend it. And you wind up spending a lot of it inefficiently.
You're doing good.
Tito's working hard, but he's not getting a lot of scoring in, though he is controlling the action.
See how quickly, though, once he slid, he grabbed Frank and kept him close again. Smart move there, and he does consider himself a submission fighter.
And Frank is constantly communicating with his corner. He'll look over there and say something, and immediately Maurice Smith passes the information on, and they come up with something to give back to Frank.
And Tito's got wrestling skills, as you know, two-time junior college champion. And Maurice Smith again on looking. 40 seconds remaining in round two. Busy fight so far, but neither fighter able to damage the other at this point.
30 seconds, Frank. 30 seconds.
Tito Ortiz scored a takedown in this round. Other than that, there's not been a whole lot of scoring. Just a lot of motion, a lot of positioning, a lot of tactics, but nobody really coming clean with effective scoring.
Frank, a couple of shots. 8 seconds left. Frank trying to lift up his opponent, Tito Ortiz. Now he works the back. They both continue to go. Oh, my!
Good job. That's all right to the back. You can't do the back of the head or neck.
And Tito complained that Frank did something to him, but John McCarthy saying it's legal. I think he tried to punch him or elbow him there. Ortiz looks very calm and confident in his corner. Same as Frank Shamrock. They're both standing. Frank shifting leg for leg, but head down, just trying to relax, trying to remain focused. At the end of the round here, a lot of quick flurrying, both by Shamrock and Ortiz. There was a momentary lull, but watch how quickly here Frank will pull his hips out from under. He nods his head to his corner. He's communicating with his corner. He'll throw a punch, bang, and now he's going to come up. Nice job there by Shamrock to get to his feet, but Tito continued hanging on to the legs, and this is what killed Paul Jones earlier. Hanging on down below, carrying your own and your opponent's body weight, sucks up a lot of energy. But as I said, Tito looks very fresh in his corner, very composed, as does our champion, Frank Juarez.
Are you ready? Let's get
Shamrock.
on. Come on, doing good.
Now, Tito said he's got some stand-up, but he knows that Frank's most dangerous skill is submission. But he doesn't think that Frank can out-wrestle him.
That was a nice
still his dangerous skill.
Right, and there was a nice inside-out kick by Shamrock. Now he's coming back from the outside.
Third round.
Oh,
a high kick again by Frank Shamrock. That's an element we haven't seen inside the octagon from Frank before. There's a knee that connected, and down it goes again.
Now, interestingly, I wonder how the judges will do that. They kind of, Frank tried in a takedown and then went down to the mat here, and they're all bound up.
See, Frank will try to shift his hips here again, won't he, Jeff?
Yeah, he's going to try to pull that left leg back through. Try to get to a half guard. He'll keep it here because he can keep Tito from improving his position. Can't really get good leverage on any of his strikes. And there, now he'll try to turn the face. Side mount by Tito Ortiz. Really what we call a headlock or an over-under pinning combination. But the position he's in, he has no weapons to really strike with. All he can do is try to smother, get a neck crank going.
Tito, you're fucking killing me. Relax and breathe. Right there, brother. Stay right there. Don't move. Stay right there. Drop your left shoulder deeper. Drop your left shoulder deeper. Right there. That's it. Right there. Yeah.
Oh, that right connected.
Now punch. Now
Frank was working the backside of Tito, and Tito snuck through and got it right. Now a short jab.
Yes, it was. It was a quick punch coming in. I really don't know how much power it had on it. Without any legs underneath it, it's an all-arm punch.
There have been chants of Tito. There are now chants of Shamrock. We have nearly reached the midway point of our 25-minute middleweight championship matchup between Frank Shamrock and Tito Ortiz.
Whoa, he gave him his back, and Tito not moving up. Frank immediately going back to guard.
There's the true athleticism and technique of Frank Shamrock.
To his credit, Ortiz did not bite on that open opportunity. Frank was looking for him to try to move up, and that's something Frank wants because he can scramble. Tito, as he said, not a master of submissions, but I can certainly stalemate him and avoid them. And he's relying on ground and pound tactics here.
Well, he's been the dominant as far as at least up on top, down on bottom, but yet Frank has also stayed very busy.
Oh yeah, Frank's very active. His guard position, he's constantly moving, constantly putting his feet in, constantly sitting up like this. And once again, he gives him his back. Tito riding him like a wrestling match right now.
And they're on their feet. Under 2 remains in the third. Frank Shamrock gets cut, left side of his face. Oh, that one got him. Left jab. A big bomb from the outside. Frank with an uppercut and a combination.
And Tito's really breathing hard here, but he's still a great takedown artist. He gets him down. Let's see how active now Ortiz will be, or whether or not he's starting to fatigue.
They both exchange good punches there. Both deliver points.
Ortiz is going to move Shamrock's head towards the fence and try to bind him up.
With your right arm, pummel inside.
But Ortiz has slowed down here.
There you go, right there. Put your head on the other side. Put your head on the other side.
If Shamrock truly is looking for cardio superiority, he wants to push now, while Tito seems to be taking a break, resting a little bit, not being very active in Frank's guard. In fact, he's just hugging down by the head, locking his hands and staying there.
A lot of time remains here in the third round. Just under a minute now. Remember, Frank tried to finish strong in the second round, too. Leave that indelible last impression in the judge's mind.
That's gamemanship there. And Frank and Tito both have a world of experience, but Frank has competed overseas for years as well in Japan. And he understands the scoring game.
Former King of Pancrase in '95, submission champ for the WKC. 20 victories, many of them overseas.
Well, his whole evolution has been astonishing. One in the shadow of course, a great UFC fighter, Ken Shamrock. Then Ken Shamrock leaves and goes on to other endeavors, and Frank is now in charge of the Lions Den, where he feels he's babysitting, and it's impeding on his own personal progress as a fighter. He then leaves and forms the Alliance, and suddenly a Frank Shamrock middleweight champion is born. And from there, he then gets married. And as I said earlier, where will this metamorphosis take us? And he's even added his name, Juarez, his original name. Here, Frank, Tito almost riding him in a wrestling position. Tried to go to his back and then eventually up onto his feet. And both of them, once they got to their feet, prodded the other. They wanted to see what each other had. And Frank with a big overhand right hits the shoulder. They trade knees. Uppercut by Shamrock. Uppercut by Ortiz. Excellent exchange.
Just one punch. And you got to move to the
Leon
line.
Tabbs, our veteran cut man, veteran of the sport of boxing from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, working on the cut above Frank Shamrock's side. And Tito Ortiz trying to regain his oxygen during this 1 minute break as we are set for round number 4.
Use those knees and punches.
Last time Frank fought, he beat that man. In the background in the white jacket, white hat, John Machine Gun Lober.
Are you ready, Frank? Turn around.
Ortiz working with Lober to try and improve his submission skills.
And John Spencer working with him on Muay Thai. But any kicks so far that have been thrown have been by Frank Shamrock. And he almost gave his leg.
He doesn't mind that. As long as the kick scores, he doesn't mind that.
Right.
And those kicks are starting to leave an impression on Tito Ortiz. They're nice, another nice inside-out kick. And I think those are good because they can trip you up as well as cause some damage. Nice left stiff jab. And Ortiz's output has slowly dwindled.
Yeah. And Frank looks so light on his feet still, Jeff.
That's not to say Tito's still not dangerous, a very dangerous fighter, but it's definite now that his output has started to dwindle.
Frank feels it.
And Frank is starting to close the distance on the striking here. He's getting right in tight with Tito now.
Frank feels something, Jeff.
He knows he needs to start pushing the fight hard.
Frank taking the center of the ring. Tito working his way around the outside. It's a tactic always used by big brother Ken Shamrock. Come out, take the center of the ring.
Now Shamrock had a cut on the side of his head, but it doesn't appear to be bleeding now. Good corner work by the champion. And like a racing crew, it's a team effort. Everybody's got to do their thing. And Shamrock now walking into Ortiz and striking, but it's now Tito's turn. He returns to the double leg and takes the champ down.
And I think Tito was just waiting for that opportunity.
And I believe Tito is now suffering from fatigue. We have not seen Ortiz fight this long in any fight. They're into it now, 17 full minutes. 3 minutes left in this round with 1 round remaining.
Longest fight of Frank Shamrock's UFC career. was the overtime submission win over Jeremy Horn. 16:30 was the duration of that fight. Now that we've gone to the 5 rounds of 25 total minutes, 5 times 5, Jeff, we get into a situation where conditioning does go a lot longer than it could have in the past.
Absolutely. Except when we had those no time limit bouts, or a half-an-hour time limit bout. Those were the longest bouts we ever had in the UFC.
Shamrock never had to experience that, nor did Ortiz. It goes all the way back to the Gracies, Shamrocks, Sevens, the great champions of the past. There has never been another middleweight champion other than the man right now working from his guard again, Frank Shamrock. He has been our only middleweight champion.
And Tito again able to keep Frank down, but Frank is forcing him to burn a lot of energy just to hold him down. And once again, we see Tito not using any kind of punching, not using any kind of striking, just hanging on.
Great, guys.
1 minute, 39 seconds remaining in round number 4.
And again, Shamrock starting to move, trying to be active again. Tito hanging on tight to Shamrock's head. And Frank always works for inside control. He doesn't like to keep Ortiz's arms too close to his head without an arm somewhere laced in between. Those are all missing. Every one of those elbows missed. They're right in front of us, had a clean view of it. Each one missed. And a reversal. And now we're going to find out what kind of stamina Tito Ortiz has.
Shamrock trying to end it. Shamrock delivers shots. They're toe-to-toe. And Ortiz shoots it again. Tito avoids the big punches of Frank Shamrock. 37 seconds. Shamrock trying to work a choke. Frank tried to end it.
He certainly did. He got up, but that's a huge burst to put on late in the fight. And how much did that take out of Tito Ortiz? And they're in tight there, and he's got him over. Shamrock might go back to it.
15 seconds. Working Ortiz still.
And he's down.
It is over.
What a gutsy performance by the champ.
Frank Shamrock retains the middleweight title.
It looked to me as though Shamrock felt conditioning was going to be a factor. He stayed active in his guard throughout this fight. He constantly made Tito Ortiz work, and it eventually paid off very late in the fight. But certainly his stand-up skills have improved. Shamrock able to deal with Tito Ortiz on his feet, unafraid of taking risk, and because of that, he found that big reward we talked about.
Frank Shamrock, the greatest under 200-pound fighter in the mixed martial arts world. This is where he turns it around.
Shamrock constantly moving here. He wanted to continue to find ways to make Tito expend energy, and he never rested on the bottom. He never just stayed on his back. He wanted to continue to move, and here you see him doing that, and he eventually came up, and once he got up here, I felt that he really had to press the fight, and he did. He stood toe-to-toe with Tito, and Tito resorted to what he needed, and that was a takedown. But in doing so, he also got locked into a somewhat of a guillotine choke, and by that, I think it started draining Tito quickly, and right then and there when he started punching, and you could see Tito's hands tapping the mat, Tito conceded. He submitted to the champ.
And that is where, as you said, he lost the oxygen right there. As Frank Shamrock victorious and continues to be our middleweight champion. What a fight, and look at the respect shown by Tito Ortiz. as we get the official word on this, our featured matchup, the marquee matchup, and there can only be one champion. And for that announcement, here's Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a winner by tap out at 4 minutes, 50 seconds in the 4th round for the winner and still UFC middleweight champion of the world, Frank Let's have a big hand for a very game warrior opponent in Tito Ortiz.
Inside a very busy octagon is Jeff Blatnick. Partner?
First of all, Frank, congratulations. I am just in awe of you as an athlete. What a tremendous fight. First off, your initial reaction on defending your title.
Well, it's always good to be back in the octagon, fighting for the fans and getting a little blood out. It went well.
Well, Frank, did you feel conditioning was a big factor in this fight? Did you remain so active in your guard to make Tito Ortiz fatigue?
Yeah, the whole plan was, he's got 20-plus pounds on me. The whole thing was just beat him down, wear him out. It's my game past 15 minutes, so I knew once I got him there, I just had to light him up, and I got it going.
Frank, do you feel you're the best athlete ever to grace the octagon?
By far. Nobody trains harder, trains smarter, is more prepared, or has better people behind them than I do. No one's going to beat me ever till I get bored of this game.
Well, you've undergone a metamorphosis that has produced the most beautiful butterfly here in the octagon. You're married now. What's next for Frank Shamrock?
Well, that's my announcement I have to make. Originally I came here to challenge myself, to fight all comers, and I feel like I've done that. I mean, who's left? I'm good right now. Just retiring my belt, concentrating on my marriage, and doing a few other things. I spent a lot of time training. I'd like to get a few days off. I know Bob wants me to work and all. I think I'm gonna leave this belt in the ring here for the next crew to pick up and retire my title tonight.
Well, I'd like to introduce the president of SEG. He's the man that brings the Ultimate Fighting Championship to all you fans, Mr. Bob Myrowitz, for the presentation of the belt.
Well, first of all, that was just one of the greatest fights I've ever seen. And you are the greatest champion to ever grace the octagon. Truly amazing. This is the 5th time you've defended the championship. This is your belt. My friend, if you want to retire it, you take it home with you because you earned it more than anybody else ever has. The greatest champion in our history.
Thanks, Bob.
A pleasure to watch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You mind if I say a few things, Jeff?
I have no problem with it.
I'm always a little long-winded. I want to dedicate this fight to a little girl named Angela Espinosa. She's got a little bit of cancer, and she's fighting pretty hard right now. I want to dedicate this fight to her because this fight in here was nothing compared to what she's going through. I also want to thank my trainers. People think it's me that's a great fighter. I'm a pretty good athlete. I've got some fabulous trainers. There's a whole lot of people behind me. I know I'm the only one standing here with a belt on, but if I get every one to those guys, I certainly would.
Congratulations, Frank. You deserve that title.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks to all my fans out there. You guys are awesome.
Okay, Mr. Goldberg, Mikey, back to you.
Well, thank you very much, Jeff, and I'm glad because it seemed as if Frank may have called it a close, and we have reopened the books. If he can find a challenger, Frank Shamrock will fight in the UFC again. But I'll tell you what, as impressive as any athlete ever to come inside our world-famous gates. And it was a wonderful night, again, capped off by our wonderful championship this evening. Don't forget, every day, log on to eYada.com for the greatest in talk and entertainment, and soon a second channel for all of the UFC and the sporting in the world. And, of course, our UFC official site is www.seg.com. This is how Frank Shamrock once again defended his title. He did it with great discipline, great emotion, and in the end, he was able to take it to a very game Tito Ortiz. Frank Shamrock is clearly the greatest fighter in mixed martial arts history. If anyone disagrees, that is the opinion of most. If anyone disagrees, Frank has openly said he will welcome all challengers. A special night with some special fights, some heavyweights who made debuts, but this night belonged to the middleweights, and that middleweight in particular, Frank Juarez Shamrock, still the champion. Tito Ortiz, classy in defeat, throwing the shirt with the name Frank Shamrock on his back. and showing Shamrock the respect that he earned tonight. And Tito just looked at me and shook his head and said, hey, I gave it my best. But this man is absolutely awesome. Will Frank Shamrock fight another day? Everyone in the UFC keeps their fingers crossed and hope so. For Jeff Blatnick, our entire UFC crew, I'm Mike Goldberg saying, so long, Frank's still the champ.